Now, before we start, I would like to understand, when I talk about the word disruption, how many of you relate it to, a fear of uncertainty, or fear of losing a job, or fear of, something unknown coming in? Give me a show of hands, right? Most of you. While if you go to the dictionary definition of disruption, it is basically innovation, right? But it is innovation which causes a lot of change, not only personally, but to the industry, right? And the people who are related to industry in different genres, right? So disruption is basically innovation at scale, which is changing the way we behave. How many of you actually use a travel agent to book a cab these days? None, right? I was hoping for that, right? How many of you use cab aggregators? Right? Most of us. But while booking a cab, how many of you think actually वो travel agent ने अपना job lose किया है? Right? Almost none of you. Why? Because of convenience, because of the beauty that disruption brings with itself, and disruption is for consumers, right? So in my journey during this presentation, I would like to focus on the positive aspects of disruption, because when we think of disruption, the only thing which comes to us is fear of uncertainty or what will happen. But disruption is beautiful, right? Disruption is basically innovation at scale. Yes, it brings changes, but it is with us as humans, how do we adapt to these changes? So as I said, I'm a trekker, and the person who's sitting right at the back, my daughter, is generally the person who stays at the front of our family treks, right? And she was asking me, why are you building this slide? And I told her, just to tell people how to find an easy way to trek better, right? So that's what disruption is all about. It is innovation, right? I started searching about disruption, when I was called for this TEDx talk. And the first articles that I get in the search engine is basically, this particular thing is going to disrupt the entire industry. So many people are going to be laid off, right? And the industry is going to be killed, right? Those were the strong words which were being used. Don't be worried about these words, right? Because these words basically are used by publishers to get higher click-through rates in the search engine, right? It is not what is happening, but many a times to get higher ranked in the Google algorithm, right? Many of these publishers use these strong keywords, right? And it causes a fear between the people who are actually searching for it, right? So I went to a disruptor, which is known to disrupt search in the coming times, and my topic would not be complete if I don't talk about it, right? And like our previous speaker mentioned about high SQ, I tried to use a tool, which helps me with a higher SQ, right? And I went into a tool, bhagwadgita.ai, right? The tool is built on ChatGPT, right? And generally, people who adopt to disruption faster are lazily smarter people, right? So rather than introspecting, we search for them, right? And we go to such kind of tools, right? So disruption is an act of interpreting or interfering with an established order, process, or activity in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, I teach that disruption of the natural order of things can lead to chaos or suffering, right? So if you remember, a lot of you might have seen Mahabharata. Krishna talks about what Arjuna is going to personally, right? It is not something what is happening outside only, but the personal changes that Arjuna is going through while he narrates Bhagavad Gita, right? So that's what disruption is all about. While the changes happening outside are beautiful, right? These changes are really helping us be better individuals, have some spare time for ourselves, right? And lead a better quality of life. But we fear the uncertainty. And that is all because it is within us. It is not something what is happening outside. And so let's dig deeper into it, right? I was wondering, a lot of things happens in your life, right? And I got invited to this TEDx talk, and my dad once told me, you can always, look at events backward. You can join dots backwards in life, never forwards, like our professor also said. and I started joining the dot backwards on what led to me coming to this event. And it was an event which happened in a personal way of disruption in life. It was something, happened 20 years back when I was about to leave my studies, right? And that point in time, my dad had a sudden heart attack, and that particular event caused a big change in my life into the way I think about life. And the only thing he told me while he was in the hospital is, please padhai complete kar lena, right? Like a typical Indian dad. That thought went so deep into me, right? I not only went on to get a distinction in my final year, I went on to do a PGP Max from ISB, and I was here at NITI to apply for my PhD with Neeraj Pandey sir, right? And that's where I got invited for this particular TEDx talk. One thought which disrupted my mind completely. So disruption can happen at an individual level, which can go so deep into you, right? It can change your perspectives in life. And if adapt to these changes positively, it can cause a way of positive changes, which can lead to your growth at an individual level on a consistent basis, right? So that's what I wondered about while I was coming here. Other positive change which is going to happen to most of you in your life is, when you have your partner, right? This particular change leads to a positive disruption. One thing happened to me was I started looking forward in life, and then my life has consistently got disrupted due to that, right? And we kind of look at the positive changes it has bring to me. It changed my thought process. I took a lot of loans. I started, getting a bigger house, and that's what brings us. What is worrying today? And I think what is causing this anxiety? And if you go globally and see the amount of TEDx talks on disruptions, they are huge. It's not the disruption alone, but it is the pace of disruption, right? And that is really causing the anxiety because previously Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3, they kind of took a lot of time, right, to disrupt a particular change, right? But here we are talking about, Netflix taking 3.5 years to disrupt the, film industry. Facebook taking just 10 months to become a big player in ad tech, hitting 1 million users, right? And then they started building their business around it. And, ChatGPT did 1 million users in 5 days. Why? Because the fear of losing out is kind of getting bigger, right? And that fear is causing this particular change consistently, right? So, that's what we are looking at. But, let's go to like 20 years back, when internet was established. Internet was established during the year, 1991. When internet just came in, the users started adopting to it. People had a similar fear, right? Not, as I said, so much extravagant, where that things are getting disrupted in 5 days or 10 days, right? But people had the fear of internet will take up a lot of jobs, right? But how many of you can imagine life without internet in the COVID times, right? I think all of our lives were completely dependent on the internet, right? All of us were doing jobs, multiple jobs. Leave losing jobs. We had these two new terms, right? For the sake of people who don't know these terms, right? The Great Resignation. Basically, people were sitting at their homes, having a comfortable life, and they got used to it, and they started leaving jobs where they were required to go to a certain office, right? And it caused a series of events across the world where people started leaving jobs, right? The other people were slightly smarter, where they said, "यार घर पे ही तो बैठे हैं, job छोड़ने की ज़रूरत क्या है?" Right? So that term got coined as moonlighting, right? Where people did not even leave jobs but just started doing other jobs during the meantime, right? So I think internet caused this kind of disruption while we were able to see it every day of our lives through e-commerce, Bitcoin, all new technologies coming in. But during COVID, when it was a situation of life and death, the kind of savior internet was to all of us, we can't even imagine. There was a parallel economy running where we were not even moving out. But, all of us were, and especially, I was fortunate to be part of the ad tech industry, which was completely online, right? We had online gaming companies advertising in a very big way, right? A lot of ed tech companies advertising in a very big way because people had started studying online, right? So all these changes happened simultaneously, right? And today, all of us have got used to mobile phones, internet so much that I think there is a new phase where we are trying to get rid out of it right now, right? So I think that is the interesting part about internet and disruption, which was caused by the internet. I mean, there are various things which happened during the same time, where UPI came in. The government also started kind of taking a lot of initiatives, right, about what government is going to do about this growth of wave, right? One of the things which led to this huge and fast disruption in India was that the data rates were cheaper, right? And as an economy, we were able to adopt to things much, much faster than maybe the developed economies, right? So today, what we are looking at is that this wave of disruption will lead to much faster growth because all of us have got completely online, right? And that it itself is a very, very big statement, right? So, I mean, the UPI transactions in India, I mean, I just read the article day before yesterday also that it will start hitting about 3 crores, right? And that the government is saying is definitely going to cross a lot of numbers. One of the big disruptions which is happening now on UPI as well is the RuPay cards, which are kind of coming in on the UPI app, right? Apart from that, I mean, the skeptics will also talk about that disruption led to the UPI disruption led to a close down of the toffee industry. People talk about now you don't give change in the, so that might also happen. But what UPI has led to is a wave of growth in the scalable market for India, right? Today, I mean, we are the fortunate people. We sit in the tier 1 markets, right? But the real growth of India is in the tier 2 and tier 3 segments, which are happening in a very big way, right? So these segments are something UPI has completely enabled. Of course, it's not only UPI. Like, I mean, Jan Dhan Yojana was a big policy of government which helped opening up a lot of accounts. Apart from that, enabling the RuPay credit cards or debit cards for the poor, it enabled a lot of digital online transactions, right? So all these put together is kind of causing a big wave of disruption in India. One thing, I mean, I request everyone to look at disruption positively is that, it is innovation which only you can think about as innovation. Why? Because, I mean, there is a lot of fear and anxiety going on while these things are happening, right? So you can only take it positively, right? And that is the kind of growth you can look for. One of the things I looked at this tree, while there are all the disruption keywords mentioned above, this tree and its roots are something which only you can define. Why? Because the growth is being completely enabled by you or your values that you bring through this disruption, right? So that's pretty much from my end. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.